Hi, everybody, and hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Hello, Scott.
You
We
good?
are back.
Yep, we are back. And we are back to talk about the next step in the presentation development process. We talked about defining your core message in the last episode. Now it's time to talk about brainstorming your content.
Yes, the ideas to support the core message.
So how do we start? What would you say? How do we talk about brainstorming?
We have two different approaches to this. However, I believe that they both come to the same results.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer of keeping pen to paper and just writing out these ideas. And I know we talked about this with the last episode. It's having that core message written out, keeping it large and near.
Yep.
And then, a mind map, what those look like with the different arms coming out, just writing out the ideas. And again, this isn't about perfection. This isn't about nailing down the presentation at this point. It's being creative and being free with the different ideas that you can come up with that will support that core message.
So when you talk about a mind map, you might put something like the core message is at the center.
Yes, in a circle, in a bubble.
You go this way and that and put bubbles like subtopics off the main topic or that sort of stuff.
Yes,
right?
Yes. There's a lot of different images for a mind map. If you Google mind map, there's different ideas that you can come up with. It's a great visual. I love doing it. I also use different color pens when I do it because it helps me to identify that I'm starting to create categories at the same time. So I think it's a fun part of the process.
Yeah, let me play devil's advocate in a way and say, some people would say, look, I'm not here to give a creative presentation. And you're talking about brainstorming, which I associate with creativity. Do I always have to brainstorm or am I I don't want to get too crazy and too creative and too emotional about what I'm doing because that might hurt my credibility. Maybe the presentation doesn't call for that. Do you have a thought on that?
Well, also it could be, I don't have the time to do this.
Yeah.
I have a deadline to meet. I don't have time to brainstorm. Well, here's what's cool about it. Give yourself 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just give yourself 10 minutes to brainstorm and see what happens. See what comes out.
And over the years, I don't know why it's happened this way, but I say 8 minutes.
Oh.
I literally,
Perfect.
I find
whatever.
Yeah, I know it's a little, I'm being a little silly, but
it worked, whichever.
Yeah, well, I watch people, and what happens is there's, I think, a natural process where people really engage in brainstorming. There's a burst of inspiration, right? You start writing like crazy at first, often, if you allow yourself to. Some people, I think, are trying to be too perfect, so I say, stop it.
Yes.
Just try to get as much down on the paper as possible. A lot of it won't make it into the presentation. You're going to create tons of ideas so that you can choose from the best.
Yeah.
So don't get too caught up in thinking everything's going to go into the presentation. Therefore, it has to be perfect.
And Scott, no one sees this process except for you.
Yeah, right.
It's just for your eyes only. And you know what else I love about taking this extra 8 minutes, taking this extra step, is that at the end of the day, you will be able to say, I gave my all in putting together this presentation.
Yeah.
I think it's very valuable for a presenter.
Yeah. It's watching people do it in workshops. I'll tell you, there are some people who in that 8 minutes that I came up with over years of watching people brainstorm and then kind of slow down. They get to a point where they've sort of exhausted their brainstorming. And it literally, in my experience, it's around 8 minutes. Some people have produced 50 ideas. We use little Post-it note. I know I use little Post-it notes in my workshop.
I do too.
You can write it out in a word processing document too. You can just write bursts of sentences and and just double return between each idea and try to fill 2.5 or 3 pages with all these little ideas.
Yeah.
It's the same concept, but a different medium. You're in a word processor, but the idea is to collect as many ideas as possible. And I do get people who produce 50, but I also get people who produce like 10. I do.
That's me. I never come up with 50.
Do you have a way of encouraging people to let go a little more? Like, how do we get out of that?
I do. We have to get out of our comfort zone. We tend to want to present with what we are comfortable with.
Yeah.
And that may not give your audience what they need. So if we, and Scott, here's the deal. These steps that we're talking through, if a presenter doesn't typically do these steps, this is going to feel uncomfortable at first. So we will need to push ourselves out of our typical habit of how we create presentations and try something new.
Yeah.
What I also love about this process, the brainstorming piece, and I feel this is valuable for the folks who say, I don't have time to do this. Well, actually, you're accomplishing 2 goals. You're brainstorming ideas, and you are building the content for your slides. We haven't created the slides yet. However, this brainstorming is going to transfer into becoming the slides.
Yeah.
So you really are accomplishing 2 goals at once.
Yeah. And you've got to remember that behind the brainstorming, the purpose of brainstorming is to stand out. I mean, to be memorable. If we don't really force our minds to be creative, to try and get our minds to go out there and think about some of the more unexpected ideas that we might present, then we are probably going to present something that's pretty predictable.
Yes.
And I think that's the magic of all this. Once you have a goal and a core message, and you really let those things keep you, sort of within the boundaries of what you're going to do, but you've got to really push your imagination so that when you present, people are going to go, well, that was different. That was refreshing. That was memorable.
What's also the magic behind all of this is that most presenters, they don't follow these steps. They don't think about the audience, creating the goal, creating the core message, and brainstorming. They don't do this process. So by doing this process, your presentation is already going to stand out amongst the others.
Yeah. I find that's one of the main reasons I'm asked to come in and work with the team, is so that they have a confident process. A process that they can say that this is something as a team, we can all speak the same language about how we create presentations. We can all have a process that we know is tried and true and that works. And this really does. It takes a little bit of self-discipline, like you said, especially when it's new.
It does. And the more you do it, it's going to feel more natural. It's going to it'll become a habit.
Yes.
You won't even have to think about it. You'll start scribbling stuff down. Automatically.
So final thoughts. What do you want to emphasize or leave the audience with?
Gosh, I'm going to go back to that point. We have now covered 4 steps in it's really a your pre-show routine of how you put a presentation together. It could feel uncomfortable, and that is okay. That means we're trying something different. We're learning a new skill, which is so valuable. So push yourself to try these steps. See where it takes you.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. We do not provide ourselves the space in the room to be creative often in sort of the corporate professional realm. This is an opportunity to do that. And as you said in the last episode, it brings joy. It's playful. It's fun.
Yeah.
So you get to create something memorable. You get to enjoy the process of being creative.
It can be surprising what you come up with.
Yeah.
So Scott, take us into our next step.
Yeah.
We have another step to this.
So the next step we're going to describe as gathering and organizing your content. What do you do with all the ideas that you've generated when you brainstorm? It's a mess. So in the next episode, we're going to say, how do you take that mess and organize it into something efficient and tight and clear? That'll be what we talk about next week.
Excellent.
All right.
Can't wait.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Scott.
See you soon.